Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intimate Talks interview series with Asi Efros. Our special guest today is Jos Berry, a lingerie industry icon, visionary, and the creative director and founder of Concepts Paris, a design concepts book that has inspired hundreds of intimate apparel designers. In this interview, Jos shares many intimate details of her life, as well as touches upon the current state of retail, manufacturing, business, and education. Here is our conversation. I know you've been in the industry for so long, and every time you share anything, any of your memories, I remember how you spoke about your amazing wedding dress. It's just like, it feels so good. It feels like you open like another little world for me. So, and you are enormously creative on top of everything, and industry icon, and just super interesting person. So it's such a pleasure every time to talk to you.
Thank you, Asi. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. I must say, you belong to one of those special people as well, because I'm sure that your background is also quite different than from a lot of people in the industry. That you touched on a lot of things, and that all those different aspects of life help us to be the people who we are. This sort of in-depth basis is especially interesting if you are creative, because it always gives you something where you can fall back to, where you find inspiration. In my case, on my age, what you already lived through, that is also an interesting part. So no, it's an interesting world at the moment as well. I think I would not have liked to miss this for a minute, because it's one of the most exciting periods in my life. I'm from a professional point of view. So what happened in this already before the pandemic, and people have a tendency to forget that, retail was in the most incredible mess.
Yes.
It was an incredible mess. We already saw big department stores falling over. We saw chapter 11 passing by in speeds. That was incredible. And we also saw that when you talk to lingerie, that all those fantastic creative middle grade companies, they were replaced by groups, or they were eaten up by groups. And then suddenly designer names, or names with a fantastic reputation, you saw their names hanging on exactly the same product as the 3-4-2 product. Everything that was not producible in big quantities disappeared. Sleepwear was one of the first victims. Everything that was day wear lingerie, little beautiful lacy thingamadigs, gone. Yeah, and so by the time the pandemic arrived, I mean, I'm still surprised that some people survived. I mean, because it was a sort of desert of misery, retail, and what you now see are two elements: young people and manufacturers, who it took some time to get to the point. They said we can't do without those small productions, not because when we start to count them up, it's actually more than we had before. So there we see now, we are now in the middle of that turnaround, where people say, hey, look at that. And big clients, big brands say, oh, it's nice, all those shopping reports, and we don't give a damn about you, but we want to know from you who's new. You know, they're suddenly very, very well aware of the consumer, who especially by Instagram, is stimulated, and then the last ripple, and I had to laugh about that, was of course the sort of comfort push. Only comfort is selling and simple things, and I thought, yeah, I have heard that before. That is nice, because then everybody is gonna run in a cookie cutter bra. Now it's not a t-shirt bra, but it is one of those brassieres which are made in one piece, and a little bit of gluing inside, and a loose padding, and we are going to sell that as, because they don't want anything else. Now, I can imagine that and I try them all. Don't worry. I mean, I'm the first to be convinced that something fantastic must happen when a company is successful with that. But I discovered quite quickly that yes, there are fantastic, comfortable crop tops, etc. And yes, everybody is right not to like wires, but that story about wires produce cancer, we all know that's not true at all, because that research is already done, and they start again with that. And so we still want to force that consumer in one little bracket. I was completely mesmerized when I heard younger people from the fair after Chantal had that massive success, or still has that massive success as Soft Stretch, when they said, "You see, Jos, corsetry is dead." I thought, oh, that is gonna be a pity for you as a fair, because when we take all those people away who make corsetry, there's nobody left.
Interesting how, and it's interesting conversation. You mentioned 70s, the 70s, when people decided to dress in their own way, create their own outfits. I see the same on runways today, and there's so many like designers completely disregard any type of seasons or directions, or they just, I think, follow their heart or their thought, how they feel, and they design incredible things. I find so much liberation in this, and nothing is dead. I think it's a revival of everything. Everything is alive. So it passes, of course, the creativity to the customer of creating their own things, of thinking, kind of, I guess, honoring their individuality. Where do you think women are today, and how, we rarely speak about men, but that change, the different place where women are today, how does it, you feel, affect men? I see a lot of designers created this almost body armor, corsets, and women on these runways look like warriors. And then I see such a femininity in men's fashion. How do you connect that with what's going with the society? Because I think designers reflect what's going in the society.
Yes and no. I'm a total feminist, but I also completely sure that although we need to have the same opportunities, men and women, that we are not coming out of the same, that we are not built the same. Our brain is not wired the same. Yes. Our emotions are not wired the same. So of course there is a group of men, and that group is bigger, and certainly is around fashion people very often, who love to be dressed gender fluid, let's call it like that. Or they want to have a skirt, or they want to. I think that is part of the diversity which you see at the moment. That's which I feel what we talked about, the freedom of choice. I hope our society allows that. There is still enormous segregation everywhere. I am also not so sure that men in general give a damn about it, because in a way, men want, when men dress, they want it to be proper and easy and not complicated. Now, what is proposed for those men is women's wear, and women's wear is rather complicated compared to menswear. I feel that there's much more to say how menswear influence women's wear apart from lingerie. And that is very, very interesting. Okay, you see the occasional G front, that has nothing to do with it. But if you look at casual wear, there you see the two things coming together as a sort of almost like an international uniform. Our casual trousers, our t-shirts. I always talked in the years when the t-shirt arrived about a t-shirt attitude, because that was the first piece of garment which was completely universal. Men, women, children, everybody, same thing, same make, same dress, and still a big variety in qualities and prices, and without that product actually became treated like so many of the garments we had, where they became the victim of price wars, and at a certain moment you see it disappearing. And but there are garments which we can't live without. Jeans. Who can live without a jean? I mean, I never wear it, but that's an individual choice. I don't like it, and I certainly don't like that sort of easiness of stepping into something everybody else is wearing. I want to enjoy fashion, but yeah, that's my choice. But if I don't want to, I can wear it. Nobody will say what the heck. And there are more and more and more garments like that, and we see now, especially when you look at that Gucci and the North Face a collection with those flowery sportswear and casual wear. Of course, that's completely gender fluid, and I saw one of the first brands saying we now make gender neutral jeans. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, it happens to me that I'm painting or building a fair that I slip on John's jeans. Mm-hmm. But that's more to protect my own garments, not as a look. I believe that retail, and especially retail with a personal touch, will remain a big discovery. A discovery world for people who really like fashion or really like their own body or really like comfort, because it needs to be discovered. And I think everybody has the right, and that's we are back to our individual rights to wear not fitting things, but they should not blame the industry because all the sizing is so different. I mean, I feel that is quite impossible. Yeah, I mean, size S in some companies is actually medium or large in other companies, and they make a lot of success because they do it deliberately. Can be become angry that they lure us in and they give us a good feeling that we come out with a smaller size, but actually it's not.
So, okay, that's very interesting thought. The size is psychological. Very cool.
It's certainly one of the biggest, especially in the lingerie industry, one of the biggest weapons.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because if you are standing there with your tape measure and you measure something, people know that what they're measuring a brand is for their own good. Now, I heard a story of recently of a girl who went to one of those fantastic shops. I think they're owned by Van der Velde in Belgium, and they now have shops where they have scans, and that shop is multi-brand. And she never had a fitting bra. Very difficult, like most young people. Very difficult size, small back and big boobs. And she was measured. She was scanned, and there came a list with. And she said, "Oh, I was amazed. There were 5 brands, but they all for each brand you have to wear a different size to that digital system." That's one of the hopeful things, I think, that is everybody should have that and say to somebody, now if you take that brand, you have 2 sizes bigger or 2 sizes smaller, or you have to go to a sister size. I mean, isn't it part of the discovery of choice?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Because when everything is the same, I mean, that's why we talk about shoes. We talk about shoes. Nobody ever made such an enormous turmoil about shoes. Now every shoe in every country fits differently. So there's the cultural aspect as well. And did you hear people complain? No, they say perhaps to you, "Oh, that fits very nicely, that brand fit," and then you go and you think, "Not for me."
Yes.
So but casual wear is our biggest if you want to talk about. Yeah, it is for some people a threat, and for other people a fantastic opportunity. When you talk about bras and a hammer that's in everybody's head, innovate, because you see how successful sport garments and casual wear is. And what do we offer apart from a cookie cutter crop top? Why is nobody very much involved in reinventing the technology? I mean, it must be possible. We have seen some efforts, but it is a very costly process. I know, and you need turnovers for that. And most of the Nikes and the Lululemons of this world, who have done a lot of research and who fit and who innovate enormously, they have to do the turnovers to match it. And I think one of the most specific things of the lingerie industry, we're actually quite small compared to in brands, compared to the big sport brands and the big casual brands and the Levi Strausses and that. We are still quite small. And then I'm asking myself, why don't they unite? Have a research center where they invest together to use together, but not together in having the same product, but using something that they, with the people working there, can't afford individually as a brand. But I think that is one of the things I discover very, 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 very early in the lingerie industry, especially when you go into materials as well. It is as closed as people are so afraid of each other. It's very sort of introvert, and they don't want to talk about things. And oh my God, it's completely different with sport people. They say, "Oh yeah, we are working on that technology, and we work with that." You think, I can't ask them to with whom they work. No, they share everything with you. So that's a complete different thing. They do not share anything, and that is especially now a little bit of a surprise for me. I'm doing all those webinars and I try to bring people together. Very, very complicated. That I don't want to sit in the same webinar with my competitor. God, he is only making the same on his way, the same classifications, but you're not a competitor really.
Wow. Even Interesting. No, this is interesting. Very interesting topic. So, and that's why now I understand, because for, let's say, small brand, it's probably the investment that prevents them to, because they would have to stop kind of making profit maybe for a season or two, or sometimes it's a couple years to invent something, even though the ideas are there and they have flexibility to implement innovation. They don't necessarily have money. And then larger brands, they do have money. Maybe they don't have, enormously innovative ideas, or maybe they kind of departmentalized that the ideas just die in between departments. Yeah, it's a problem. Both sides have a little bit of.
Honestly, it's I talked long with and I had her also as a guest in one of the webinars. I talked long with Laura Tempesta, a fantastic woman who has her master in bra fitting and bra technology. Who is that? I'm jealous of that. Uh, but she says, working now, she works a lot with sport brands, and she says the lingerie industry is asking for trouble because they sell the same bras, more or less, since 100 years. With the same, now yeah, it's now wires, but they have had bones and things, but the principle is the same, and there are other technologies possible. So that is really something one should talk about that, and I agree. Where is the money coming from, and who's paying for that? And especially since fabric manufacturers are involved, and that is also a very hot subject. You nowadays, when you want to engineer a new product, materials are as important. It's not only a fit and patterning. So now they are asked to do all kind of new investments in innovation, but they say we cannot longer actually finance the bra industry with our innovations, and then they are coming with that sort of what's your price? So in principle, it means, and that is where I think the pandemic was so fantastic at the beginning, because everybody said we're going to work together and collaborations. Yeah, no, it starts to already fall apart again. It's not. I'm sure something will happen because this new generation is different.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm so glad we need this new way of thinking, new way of doing things, new understanding, fresh and different from the old industry. So, do you feel like our education system is up to date? Is up to date with the industry? Because I thought every time, like, I see portfolios of students coming from colleges into the industry, I feel like education is stuck 20 years back somewhere. What do you think about it, about our new new generation of designers?
But in lingerie?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now I blame education in when it's lingerie. Um, I I blame them of not having a broader vision on the changes in society, because they are treating design as an isolated element based on the principles of design, on the patterning, on the measurements, on what you have to know, and that's quite good. And to know that, because even when you use 3D new technology, you have to still have a solid basis there. But that is good. But honestly, to learn that, does that need 3 years? No, I don't think. But what it needs is and that, you see, there are fantastic. We shouldn't generalize. I mean, people coming from St. Martin's in London, they know who they are.
Mhm.
That's a painful process often. because they discovered perhaps that what they have is not good enough to meet those high standards. But there has been a movement, and that is quite sure, and that has hit everybody, where the demand to democratize schools and to make the entree for people who are less gifted lower, and then sort of modify the whole curriculum. That is, I remember that started especially in Nordic countries very early, already in the 60s. That idea where basically everybody is the same, where we all, and that doesn't give a lot of space for brilliance. And then there is the moment where we also saw that subsidies disappeared, and where schools actually, they have to earn their money. So educations which were quite exclusive, suddenly you walk in and you think, where am I? The whole world united because they have a fantastic marketing department. Yeah, I basically think that if you are a motivated person to become a designer, education can't last long enough. If it's broad enough, if it touches on culture and it touches on differences and it touches on the soul of that personal creativity and challenges that. But I don't think that happens, and that nobody is to blame for that. Basically, it's a little bit of the whole system. But I heard here, there, and everywhere, perhaps at the moment, that people are researching that, especially the sort of typical age-related divide system. But there are children who are 6 years old and could become Einstein right away, and they still have to go through that. So now that is at the moment, there are all kind of experiments to throw that all together. So I have good hopes. I think that will change. But I think there are also, and that should be a reflection, that fashion schools should apply a quota, because how many new designers can the industry house? I mean, yes. and especially in lingerie, I'm very often part of a jury. If I see another corset again, I'm going. And only very recently, and that's international, somebody thought, hey, sport leggings. Whoa, what does that mean? Yeah. Because there are some teachers probably say that's not lingerie. That doesn't demand inventive cutting, sizing, I don't know. But so that is typically that link with reality.
Yeah,
which is a little bit weird now and then.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. Well, thank you. And I wanted to ask you a couple personal questions. Well, who or is your mentor who affected your life the most?
I think my grandfather. My grandfather had an enormous effect on me. He was very old when I was sort of 5-6 years, because I remember that he lived close to us in a fantastic house in a giant garden, and he was an ex-doctor, and his pleasure in life was to tell stories and to have children. So it was me and a little friend of mine. We were sort of in the mornings that we have to go to grandfather because it's a beautiful day, and he would teach us how to look. Yes, he would also question what you saw. So in a certain way, rather avant-garde in thinking, by creating stories about the most simple things in the garden, that sort of triggered your fantasy, and I was very interested because that was absolutely a world where you immediately were focused on books. And I remember my favorite book in that time was Black people living in America, slaves who were trying to escape. And I was playing around with that. I see me because there's a scene in that book where Eliza, perhaps you even know the book, has a baby, and she is jumping. She needs to go over probably the Mississippi, but she was jumping from one ice thing to the other. And I was rehearsing that on our with a doll in my hand, sort of cuddled in, and that idea of not taking things on their core value, but looking further in it and imagining it and how it was, that came from him. He had made an enormous impact in my life. Later also because that was amazing. And and then who else? I was incredibly impressed by some readings. It was not a person, by some readings from the Renaissance, where suddenly people started to think about brain, how the human person, how the human spirit could actually change everything, and that there were no limits for the human spirit. By not taking everything that happens as a sort of fate, or sort of faith from God that came over you. There's nothing to do about it anymore. So I remember writing with my school script in Latin. Nothing is so nil volenti busardum, and nothing is difficult for them who want. And I thought, now I was very impressed by that. So that was a constant mantra in my head. Stop moaning. If you want, do you really want it? Because that is also something interesting. And from an admiration point of view, now that changes a lot. I must say. I have big admiration for some powerful women in history. I'm just reading a book which is written by the bodyguard of Jacqueline Kennedy. Mm. And that is very interesting because we always saw her as a sort of, we had our opinion about it. That opinion was very much given to us by the press. Mm-hmm. But that is very interesting as well, if you see how that woman must have had a fantastic backbone, strong to survive that, be gorgeous for the outside, and went through life like that. So women in general inspire me a lot.
Yeah. Wow, that's so amazing. Oh, thank you. And last question. What was your very first lingerie that you remember in your life? Yeah. My very first memorable, it was a 7-piece panty, but there were 7 for every day of the week.
Oh, how gorgeous.
And they were cotton. They had this bright, I remember them. They had bright, and I think I was like, I don't know, 6 maybe, pico elastic, and they had a tiny embroidery. They were all white with embroideries, they say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And it was so precious, and I was so grateful. And I still remember them.
How old were you?
Until now. So what was yours?
Now, not good.
Oh.
Not good. But my first pleasant memory, but my first memory of my mother was quite a charming from the outside, pure elegance and good looks, but she was very, 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 very severe. And so I remember the first bra, what you had to wear. Oh my God, I found it was scratchy, it was uncomfortable, not a good memory. So that was not nice. But my first memory of fantastic lingerie was when I got a present from John, and he bought me the first two, one white, one black, bodies from La Perla in stretch lace. That had never happened. Stretch lace was something I couldn't believe how that was my best memory. For the rest, I'm a lingerie freak, so I like lingerie, but what I wear myself is not very when it comes to bras. Like every woman, I have my favorite. And you stick with that more or less your whole life. My mother, for instance, had wore one bra brand after she discovered it, because that must be later I think it was created in the 50s or something like that. But the Doreen from Triumph, and she was wearing that until she died. She had piles of boxes in her cupboard when she died, and I thought, why so many? She was so afraid that they would take it out of the market. But no, she was not typically a lingerie person, absolutely not. I had a friend, and she had a very beautiful mother, and suddenly I found myself together with them on holiday in Switzerland. And so we, with her two little sisters, we shared a big room, and the parents were in another room. And suddenly her mother came into our bedroom dressed in a fantastic negligee with red cheeks, because she had obviously in her holiday did big rediscoveries of her husband. And I thought, whoa, that's how women should be dressed. I was not used by like that. My mother had a peignoir, but no, that negligee, that was really fantastic, and amazing. Also how I discovered later how good lingerie and it's nothing to do with fashion. I'm still, there are influences and it goes here and there, but everybody who is constantly throwing designer slides in front of me and say, look what I see, all the skirts are getting shorter or longer or whatever, that will influence lingerie. I always say, no, because do not forget that is our biggest gift as an industry, is diversity. All these emotions, we can choose the matching lingerie for that.
Yeah, and because we are so diverse, and lingerie is so personal, that it has to be diverse. Absolutely, and that's why probably it's so interesting. I'm in love. I when I think about gifting something to somebody, it's always lingerie, and sometimes it's I don't think even appropriate, but my first thought it's either a silk robe or lingerie or something to that extent, and then I kind of come to my senses. Maybe not. Maybe I'll gift a book. It's not somebody who is very close to me. So yeah, lingerie, I think it's kind of reflection. It's closest to what we always wear to our bodies, and a reflection of personality, maybe. Well, thank you so much. Oh my God, it was the most amazing time. You always just create this field of energy, amazing energy. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
It was very nice to talk with you.